All right, this is part 2, and I left off part 1 on a bit of a rant, which is not very Christian of me. And basically, I went over the rich young ruler stories and the commentary I had, because when I read the passage, basically this whole problem started out because when I read the passage by itself without the commentaries, I had the fear of God in me, man. Like, you would not understand how I felt. I was a young man, I was a Christian, and I wanted to do God's will, but I just wouldn't understand the passages because that's not what's being taught in Sunday school. So I'd read about I can't go to heaven if I don't hate my parents, or if I don't cut off my arms or gouge out my eyes. I was a young man, and I'd read these passages. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to hell. And I was just hitting puberty, and I started noticing girls, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. I'm gonna have to be blind now. This is not good. So. And then I told my parents, and they're like, oh, no, calm down. I love my parents, and I couldn't even imagine willingly leaving them. And I lived a middle-class lifestyle, which in the context of the world and of the country, is privileged in the sense that I can afford luxuries which other people simply can't get. I had access to good education. I lived in a city with little crime. I had health insurance, and things people take for granted. So I'm reading this, and this is a big passage to me, so I'm keeping an open mind because I want to learn this and what it really says. And it says, sell all you have and follow me. And rich people can't make it into heaven. So I'm like, wait a minute, this is a big problem, man. I am going to hell because of this. So, because, if you read something in the Bible and it convicts you, you need to repent. You need to change. So I read the commentary. So before that, I go to my parents, and they're like, oh, they calm me down. I was like, oh, don't worry, it's all right. And this is actually one of the reasons why I got this Calvinistic Bible, to pump me full of the right knowledge. And so I get this. So I read the commentaries relating to the passage, and they say that, Jesus isn't talking about, he's not really talking about riches. The point is that the young man didn't really come to Jesus seeking the truth. And the problem I would have with that, and that I'm reading this, and I can't find that anywhere. There's so many other passages that we know that people come to Jesus with wrong motives. Like the Pharisees who seek to trap him, and then Jesus doesn't respond to the questions, but he changes the subject all the time. He makes them mad. But nowhere does it say that this young man is coming to justify himself or to gloat to Jesus or with wrong motives. And here, Jesus, as opposed to the other passages, Jesus is direct. He tells him, this is what you need to do to have eternal life. Give up all you have, follow me. And the commentaries tell me, nope, that's not what it means. Even though that's what it says, that's not what it means. And I'm supposed to read into the text something that is not there. And then there's the cryptic ending at the end, right? God can do all things. All things are possible. Well, like, okay, when a big spiritual truth is told in scriptures, usually there'd be some explanatory thing. This is what it means. This is what you need to do. Nothing. We go on right to the next story. There's nothing explaining it. So it's basically, I'm left. I knew God can do everything. Everything I knew before I read this passage is the same as I knew after. Except now I have huge questions, and I'm like, wait a minute. I could possibly be going to hell. This is problematic. So then I find the Gospel of the Hebrews. So now I'm going to read you that. It is written, this is a commentary on Matthew now, and Jeremias basically translated it, the Latin version. And it is written in a certain gospel, which is called, according to the Hebrews, if yet it pleases one to accept it, not as authority, but as a manifestation of the proposed question. The second of the rich men said unto him, Master, what good thing can I do and live? He said unto him, O man, do that which is the law and the prophets, which is in the law and the prophets. He answered him, I have kept them. He said unto him, Go, sell all that you own and distribute it to the poor, and come, follow me. But the rich man began to scratch his head, and it pleased him not. And the Lord said unto him, How can you say, I have kept the law and the prophets? For it is written in the law, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And behold, many of your brothers, sons of Abraham, are clad in filth, dying of hunger, and your house is full of many good things, and nothing at all goes out of it unto them. And he turned and said unto Simon his disciple, who was sitting by him, Simon, son of Jonah, it is easier for a camel to enter in by the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Okay, now you could be asking me, like, all right, so basically Jesus said some extra things in some other book, big deal. What's the point of this video? Well, the point of the video is that the Gospel of the Hebrews provides an explanation to this parable. The Gospel, to this passage. In the Gospel, there's so many parables and there's so many passages that don't expressly state what the point is. So we're left hanging and we're in despair, just like the apostles. Who can be saved? So well, everything's possible. But what does that mean? I want to know. So we're left with interpretations. And the interpretations make sense, but those interpretations are based on our presuppositions of how we read the passage, and that's why we have so many interpretations. Which one is right? I don't know. And if I pick the wrong one, you know where I'm going, right? But Jesus' admonition to sell everything makes sense in the Gospel to the Hebrews. The rich young ruler has significant resources as a result of God's blessing, which the man could use to ease the suffering and bless those who haven't enjoyed such blessings from God. And this is a direct and mandatory order, which we find here too. And this is incredibly radical, especially in a society where being wealthy was considered a sign that God loved you, and poverty was basically considered a curse. So Jesus is essentially telling this man to become cursed in the eyes of the society in order to go to heaven. And this is so insulting and inflammatory to an observant Jew. In this light, the young ruler's reply makes sense, and even Jesus' camel statement now makes sense. Now, not only is this Bible for Jesus' day, but for today, right? Because the message applies today. So if we take Jesus' statement in this passage, as stated in the Gospel of the Hebrews, we are simply not his disciples, so long as we have great possessions, while there are hungry, naked, poor people on our streets. Now, this is problematic because Christians have beautiful, expensive churches, cars, suits, bank accounts, and I know this because I live with these people. And I'm one of these people. And there are many people in need in this world. Just keep a little perspective. While Christians use millions to build creationist museums and millions of dollars to fight political battles against gay marriage and abortion rights, there are people, human beings, created in the same image as God. Human beings who are our neighbors, who are dying because they don't have food, dying because they suffer from malaria, which could be prevented by sending them 33 cents for a mosquito net. 33 cents to save a life, a human life. We spend more on dog food. Now, this message is an indictment upon Christianity as a whole in my eyes. Now, not because of poverty exists, because we'll always say poverty, but because the church, at least the church in America, is so rich and has so many resources and uses them in such an unchristian manner. According to this interpretation in the Gospel of the Hebrews, Jesus would brand all of us as non-Christians, even worse than heretics, as antichrists, because we claim his name and we don't do his will. We read things in that are contrary to his will. But you'll notice that in the canonical version and in the commentary notes, there's no such impetus. It's okay to have wealth while others are dying and suffering, so long as you accept Jesus. As long as you believe, your failure to follow Jesus' mandates is secondary. That's fine. He'll forgive your sins so long as you just believe and go about your merry way and seek political power and wealth. That's all right. That's cool. Now, the differences are striking. They're shocking to me, because we have two Jesuses essentially saying two very different things, because we don't have the whole story in the canonical version that we had in the other version. Now, the parables and the gospel stories of Jesus are supposed to make sense. That's what a gospel is. It's the good news. It's to tell me that I've never heard of this person. This is what I need to know to be saved, all right? They're supposed to make sense, even to our own 21st century eyes. The fact that there's so much divergence and so many interpretations and so many variants in what Jesus really meant puzzles and troubles me. We basically have the same stories, but we have lost the context and possibly some additional explanatory sayings that went on with the details. We know this for a fact because similar stories are recounted in varying parables with different degrees of details by different gospel writers. So then, how can we truly know what Jesus really meant? The only option we're left with is to take the gospel writers at their word. Now, this is a dangerous proposition in the sense that they're filtering out everything we know about Jesus. And if they added too much or too little detail in the narratives so as to change the original meaning of the stories, we've been completely misled. Similarly, if we just take it at face value and we depend upon the interpretation, it's a guessing game. We don't know for sure. We think we might know, but we don't know. So in conclusion, we are either one, right in our interpretations, or wrong. So, I mean, that's a scary thought, at least to me, you know, because if, yeah, God help us.